I have the honor and privilege of introducing our next speaker, Ouida Newton. She is the 2015 Arkansas Teacher of the Year. She's taught math at all the different levels, from middle school all the way through college at the College of the Ouachita. She graduated summa cum laude from Henderson State University with a double major in math and science. She has a master's degree in library and informational science from UALR. She's also the 2014 MAA Outstanding Arkansas Middle School Math Teacher of the Year, the 2014 Arkansas Rural Teacher of the Year, the 2015 Grant County Secondary Teacher of the Year. She has a husband, Jerry, who is a superintendent at Point of where she's at. They've been married for 39 years, so that is a standing ovation in itself these days, with 2 children and 4 grandchildren. And she deeply believes that all students can learn and succeed when they have that passion and that teacher that drives them and believes in what they can do. So it's my honor and privilege to welcome Teacher of the Year, Ouida Newton.
I've got this. I guess is it working? Can you hear it? Okay. And I don't know if the slides are, my helper disappeared, so I'm in front of it. There we go. All right, good. He was going to get me a sticker, so I guess we didn't get that one. That's okay. I'll put it right in. Have you ever been nervous in your life? Okay, that's me. So y'all just, maybe I'll go through this, but I just want to talk to you a little bit today and talk to you a little bit. I know the kids are coming in 2 weeks, whether we like it or not. They're coming and we want to be ready. And so I want to talk to you a little bit from my heart today. And I'm going to go back. Some of you, I hope I'm not making you too bored, but go back in life a little bit and tell you a little bit of my story. It doesn't work. I can just go. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Just tell you a little bit of my story and kind of where I'm coming from, how I got to be where I'm at today. And so what I want to ask you today is, how can you look at a child and know what their future will be? Think about a baby. When you look at a baby, do you see a bright, successful future? What happens when that baby grows and enters school? Do we as teachers still see that bright, successful future? Or does our viewpoint change when we find out about their homework? Is a child's future determined by their circumstances? I was born late in life to my parents. My mother had a very difficult pregnancy with my older sister, so they waited 10 years before trying again. And can you tell that my daddy wanted a boy? But it didn't matter. I was loved so much, even before I was ever born. They told the story lots of times as I was growing up. They told the story of how I got my name. They had an easy time getting my first name, Ouida, which is unusual, but I was named after my mother. But they couldn't get that middle name. And so one day, Daddy was standing at the sink shaving, and Mama came up. She was the diplomat out of the family, and she put her hands on her hips and said, "Well, I guess you'll just name her after that old hound dog laying out in the yard." And Daddy went, "Sue, Ouida Sue. That sounds pretty good." And so that was how my future and my story began, named after my mother and an old hound dog. As I grew up and things went on, my journey began on a small dairy farm in rural Mississippi, living in a 100-year-old farmhouse. On that dairy farm, my mama and my daddy tried very hard to make that dairy business a success. But because of circumstances and the economy, they just couldn't do it. And so they had to close the dairy business. And And then my daddy had to go and look for work someplace else because he had to support our family. And he looked all around, and there were no jobs in our local area. So he had to go off and find a job someplace else. And so during the week, my older sister was grown, and so during the week, it was just me and my mother. And he would come home on weekends, but it would be just us during the week. And because we lived in such a rural area, I didn't have playmates like kids today have playmates. My playmates were the ones, I keep running away. My playmates were the ones that I found in books. I loved books and found all sorts of playmates there. But I had lots of puppies and lots of different animals, and I was always playing. And those were my playmates. And so that meant I became a quiet child, a reserved child. I was very uncomfortable talking to adults or even talking to other children. Was difficult for me. And I'll give you an example of that. I can remember in the 5th grade, my PE teacher gave all of us girls an assignment that we had to walk a mile and in the track. No big deal. So like 5th grade girls do, we all grouped together in one clump and we started walking. Well, I soon got lost in my daydreams. I tuned them out as we walked along. And as we almost got through, I can remember the leader of the pack said, "And that is how babies are made." I missed the whole thing. What kind of a future could I ever expect to have? And I missed out on that vital piece of information from an 11-year-old. I started school. Maybe I get to go. Went the wrong way again. I don't know. Somebody's going to have to help me with technology again. There we go. There we go. Can you tell my mama liked My mama liked home Tony Farms. You guys remember Tony Farms? All right. She loved Tony Farms. I got home every year when school started, and I would go to my aunt's house, and she cut it off. So I went round and round with that cycle. But anyway, I started school at 1st grade when I was 5, and I was that quiet child, that compliant child, the one that always did what the teacher said. Okay? And as I was journeying through school, I became an avid reader. I loved to read. The Bossy twins and I would go on grand adventures. And in my head, I became an exciting adventurer. I was always doing great things, but it was always here. But what did my teachers say when they saw me? I don't know what I'm doing this thing, I guess. There we go. What did my teachers see when they saw me? Certainly, I was the one that they said, "Oh boy, I'm glad I got her on my roll this year because she's easy to teach. She always makes good grades. She'll do exactly what you say to do." But did they see me? How many times do we get busy in our classrooms and we get so busy with all the day-to-day things that we have to do, and those children come in and we never see them? We know that we have those kids that have really hard circumstances at home, and they're difficult, and they seek out our attention, they crave our attention, and we do our very best to help them overcome those difficult circumstances. And then there's those bright, shining stars, those talkative girls and boys that are such a joy to have in our classroom. We know that they've got a great future ahead, so we do our best to load them up with all the skills that they're going to need to be successful in the future. But what about those in-between children? Those children that were like me, that were present but not seen. Are they any less deserving of our attention than that child that has a difficult home life? Do they have any less potential than that bright, shining star? For me, as I continue to grow, life at my home got more and more difficult. It was getting very hard at home. And so my parents made the very difficult decision that we were going to have to move. And this was a major upheaval for all of us. My mother was about 45 years old, and she had lived all of her life less than 5 miles from her own mother in the same community where she'd grown up. I was going to be asked to leave the only home and security that I had ever known, and leave a school of over 3,000 students to move to a tiny town in Arkansas that had a school, K-12, of less than 200 people. It was a shock for me. We moved it 7th grade year, during my 7th grade year at Christmas, and I think I cried every day of that spring semester. But what about those new teachers that I would have? Would they see me? Yes, they saw me. For the first time in my life, I had teachers who saw me. They got to know me. They knew what I liked. They knew my dislikes. I never, ever had teachers like that before. There was Miss Sudi. She was our librarian. And as she developed a relationship with me, she soon discovered that I loved to read. But my focus of my reading was so narrow that I was starting to get bored with it. So she encouraged me to expand my horizons. And because of her, I found stories and books and authors and places like I never had before. I was blossoming under Miss Sudi's care. And then there was Miss Ruby. Don't you just love her by looking at her? Can't you just tell? Miss Ruby taught English, but she taught more than English. She taught love. It didn't matter who it was that came into her classroom. She loved you. It didn't matter what you looked like. If you came in her circle, she loved you. It didn't matter who your parents were, because she knew your parents and she loved them too. Miss Ruby always smiled. And it was with her love and encouragement that she pushed me out of my shyness and out into the world. It was with her help and her support that I started trying my wings. But it wasn't just for me. It was for all of her students. So slowly, day by day, my future was starting to change. And then there was Mrs. Hurd. Now, Mrs. Hurd had passion. Passion like I had never seen before. She had passion for her subject matter. And because she had such passion for her subject, I caught that same passion too. I fell in love with math and science as she opened the world with her love of her subject matter. But it wasn't just that subject matter that she had passion for. She had passion for her students. She had passion for us. And Mrs. Hurd used peer tutoring and cooperative learning a long time before that was a popular teaching method. She wasn't afraid to group students, pair students together, and it was in her classroom that I learned that, I might like this teaching stuff. This might be something I would like to do. It was in her classroom that I caught the passion for teaching. The door to my future had just opened. I went on to college and became a teacher, and I was so excited. I wanted to be just like them. But would I be when faced with my own classroom full of students? Would I be able to love every one of them like Miss Ruby had loved me? Would I be able to open their horizons and expand their horizons like Miss Sudi had done for me? Would I be able to share my passion like Mrs. Hurd had done for us? Would I see every student? I wish I could tell you that all of my stories were success stories. I have one that I will share with you. It's about a student that came into my classroom after I'd been teaching about 3 years. She was an athlete. She came into my Algebra 1 classroom. She marched into the room. She walked all the way back to the back of the row, plopped down in her seat, crossed her arms, and looked at me with a scowl that said, "I'm here, but I dare you to make me learn this math stuff." She had an enormous chip on her shoulder and you never smiled. So I used the love tactic of Miss Ruby and the passion tactic of Mrs. Hurd, and slowly, little by little, those walls started to come down. Was it easy? No way. It took a lot of love. It took a lot of encouragement. It took a lot of nights of me going to ball games, showing her that I liked the things that she cared about. Was it worth it? Absolutely. It was worth every minute. Because by me doing that, she learned that I cared about her, not just as a student, but as a person. A few years ago, I was very privileged to have her come in, her niece, as one of my students, and I met her niece for the first time on a back-to-school night. And the niece came marching into my classroom and said, "My Aunt Brenda told me about you." I thought, okay, what's fixing to come out of her mouth now? She said, "Aunt Brenda told me that you were the best teacher that she ever had because you cared about her." She told me I better listen and pay attention too. So, anyway. But, I wish I could tell you that all of my stories were success stories. But, I've had those students that come in that needed me to see that they needed my love and encouragement, but I didn't see that. There were those students that came in that needed me to open their eyes to new possibilities, and I didn't do that. There were those students that came in that I needed to be able to share my passion with, and I didn't see that, and I didn't do that. I've got to tell you about Sam. Sam came into my classroom after I'd been teaching about 10 years. I'd been teaching long enough to think, all right, I've got this teaching thing down. I know what I'm doing. This is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now, Sam came from a single-parent home. He had several other siblings, and they all lived with his dad. And his dad was the person a lot of people thought in town was a little strange. And they lived about a mile from school in a wood frame home. It was an older home. The yard was all grown up with trees and bushes and all sorts of things. There were old cars, and you really couldn't tell what all was out in there, but there was lots of things out in there. And so Sam would walk to school. He would come into my classroom very quietly, sit down, do his work, didn't have a lot of interaction with the other students, didn't participate in any after-school activities. He would just do his work and then walk home. Sam was much like what I was when I first started school. You see, Sam was in my classroom, but I didn't see Sam. But I'm very thankful today that there was someone in our community who did see Sam. And I'm going to have a hard time getting through this, I'll just tell you up front, okay? His neighbor, Mrs. Flowers, saw Sam. He would walk home every day, and she would take the time to visit with him. She got to know him. She loved him. She told him how much that she believed in him. She did what I should have done, because Mrs. Flowers had the love of Miss Rubin in her heart. She loved him. She believed in him every day. And lots of days she would even meet him with chocolate chip cookies, because she knew that might be the last food he would get until he got back to school the next day. Several years passed, and after a few years, I attended the funeral of Mrs. Flowers. And on that day, a very young preacher stepped up to the podium to deliver the eulogy. And he told how his life and how his future had been changed by Mrs. Flowers' love and encouragement. He told us how that she would meet him every day and talk to him and tell him how much that she loved him and how much that she believed in him. And he told us that after a while he started to believe that himself. He started to believe in himself. And he told us how that he'd gone on to put himself through school, put himself through seminary, and eventually get his degree. Sam told us that day how his life had been changed by Mrs. Flowers' love and some chocolate chip cookies. On that day, my heart was filled with sadness, not just because I was at the funeral of a very wonderful lady, but because it was on that day that I realized I failed Sam. He had been in my classroom, but I hadn't seen him. I hadn't given him the love and the encouragement that he needed. I was glad that he had succeeded in spite of all my failures. But my mind started to wander, and I wondered how many other sounds had come and gone that I hadn't seen. Did I have more successes, or did I have more failures? I hope I had more successes, but I really didn't know. And it was on that day I realized I couldn't do anything about those students who had gone before. They were already out of my classroom. But I could and I would do something about those that were to come. You see, I believe as teachers, we are called to do more than just teach our subject matter. We are called to do what my 3 teachers did for me. Miss Sudie expanded my horizons. Miss Ruby loved me. Mrs. Hart shared with me her passions. They changed my future. I can do no less than the same for my own students. I ask you today, what will your future be when your students show up in a couple of weeks? I pray that you will, for every student that comes into your classroom, expand their horizons. I pray that you will love each and every child. And I pray that you will share with them your love and your passion of your subject and how much you love teaching and learning. If you will do those things for your children, you too